So how do you really know if your academic writing sounds natural? I mean, think about it. Have you ever just stared at a sentence you've written and, grammatically it checks all the boxes, but deep down you just have this feeling that it sounds a bit off? Well, if you've been relying on standard dictionaries or just your gut feeling, you definitely aren't alone. Honestly, even the best language teachers out there often struggle to explain, based purely on human intuition, why some expressions work beautifully while others just completely flop in a specific context. But today, we're going to fix that.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into Lesson 27, Introduction to Concordancing. We're going to completely move beyond all that linguistic guesswork and fuzzy human intuition. Instead, we'll be looking at an evidence-based, truly data-driven approach to language learning using some really clever, specialized software tools.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the language guessing game. Then, what is a corpus? Next, enter the concordancer, followed by word frequencies, authentic collocations, and finally, how to supercharge your writing. Let's jump right in.
Section 1, the language guessing game, the limits of intuition.
And that brings us right to Section 2. What is a corpus? The data-driven solution.
All right, so by definition, a corpus is a collection of naturally occurring texts used for linguistic study. The absolutely crucial phrase there is naturally occurring. We're not talking about some dusty textbook filled with invented grammar rules. No, a corpus represents what real speakers and writers actually experience in a specific domain. It totally shifts our focus away from those rigid, old-school ideas of what is technically correct and pushes us to discover what is actually frequent and typical out there in the real world. And to give you a sense of the sheer massive scale we're talking about here, just look at this number, 400 million. The Cambridge Academic English Corpus alone contains 400 million words of written and spoken language. That's pulled from textbooks, journals, lectures, seminars, the whole shebang. Good luck trying to read all of that over the weekend, right? But seriously, it's literally a multi-billion word universe out there just waiting to be explored. And it gives us this incredibly solid evidence-based foundation for how English is truly used by experts.
Section 3. Enter the concordancer, the superpowered search engine.
So you're probably wondering, how do you actually search 400 million words? Well, a concordancer is essentially this specialized software tool built for linguists and language learners. When you plug in a search word, it generates a concordance. That's a list of unconnected lines of text, with your search word sitting smack dab in the center of each line. And this is just brilliant because it lets you read horizontally to catch the immediate context of the word. But, and here's the magic, you can also read vertically, right down the center, to easily spot these systemic, repeating grammatical patterns.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can manipulate all this data. Looking at this screenshot from a program called MonoConc Pro, researchers were looking at dissertation acknowledgments, and they found a really strong tendency for writers to use the noun thanks. So they asked the software to sort the concordance lines by the first word directly to the left of thanks, and they made this striking discovery. In academic writing, that noun was modified almost exclusively by just 3 adjectives: special, sincere, and deep. In fact, the phrase special thanks made up over 2/3 of all the cases. You see, you don't have to guess how to express gratitude in a dissertation anymore. The data literally tells you exactly how the experts do it.
Section 4. Word frequencies and patterns, characterizing the domain.
You see, concordancers don't just find words, they automatically count them for you. And priority vocabulary drastically shifts depending on what you're actually studying. Just take a look at this frequency data comparing introductory textbooks. Over in applied linguistics, the top nouns are exactly what you might expect: language, speech, and example. But jump over to biology and bam, the high-frequency nouns immediately shift to species, DNA, and spores. Working your way down these frequency lists in a corpus reveals the absolute key items you need to master for your specific target genre.
Concordancers also let you run these incredibly powerful wildcard searches. In this screenshot from a program called WordPilot, a user searched for the phrase it star that, using the asterisk as a wildcard. So it finds the word it, followed by that, with varying words sandwiched in between. And the results are actually fascinating. It pulls up phrases like, it is likely that, it seems that, and it is clear that. When you break down these frequencies, it turns out that academic writers heavily favor expressions of certainty over expressions of doubt. Armed with that kind of expert practice, you can make highly informed, confident choices in your own writing.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 5, discovering authentic collocations, solving the confusing words.
Corpus evidence is just fantastic for uncovering collocations. You know, the regular occurrence of a word alongside one or more other words. Like, students often confuse words like bored versus boring, or take words that have similar referential meanings but carry very different connotations, like persist versus persevere. A quick concordance search immediately clears up the confusion. It shows you the company these words like to keep, it tells you exactly which prepositions naturally follow them, and it even uncovers their semantic prosody, which basically means whether a word carries a subtle positive or negative vibe based on how it's habitually used.
And this is absolutely vital, because research on learner corpora shows that second language, or L2, students often lack good models of target academic genres. So to play it safe and avoid grammatical errors, they fall back on a limited number of prefabricated lexical bundles. And, well, this leads to a very repetitive style of writing. But by using concordancing to see exactly how native writers vary their phrases, students can vastly expand their own vocabulary options. It's a real game changer.
Section 6. Supercharge your academic writing, building your own data.
So the crucial point is that you don't need access to a massive commercial database to start using this approach today. Anyone can act like a corpus linguist. You can build an individual corpus right at home. Just do searches using free academic engines like Google Scholar. Find the words used in your specific discipline, collect the samples by literally just cutting and pasting them into a Word document, and boom, you've built a targeted, personalized corpus. From there, you can just use your computer's standard find facility to act as a basic concordancer, noting down the grammatical patterns and synonyms the experts are actually using.
And this brilliantly illustrates the entire philosophy of data-driven learning. Like the researcher Wu noted way back in 1992, only when words are in their habitual environments can they be learned effectively, interpreted properly, and used appropriately. Concordancing replaces all that boring top-down instruction with active discovery. Honestly, it just lets the data teach you.
So, we've seen how massive databases and some pretty simple software can completely replace guesswork with hard evidence. It really transforms how you understand and write academic English. The tools are out there and the data is waiting for you. So, I'm going to leave you with this question to kickstart your own language exploration. What is the very first word or phrase you plan to run through a concordancer?